Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, you can applaud. I want to thank you all for coming to support Homeward LA, and we're grateful to be here at the church and for the space and for all the actors and actresses that have donated their time and energy to make this possible. Homeward LA is a 10-day fundraiser for the Midnight Mission. It's running from April 25th to May 6th, and we are one of over 50 shows, and we're depicting 11 monologues in one song, and then these are being portrayed by more than 500 actors and actresses throughout the city of Los Angeles. Now, the Midnight Mission was founded in 1914, and it is not just a shelter for homeless people, it is a place where you can go and get case management. There is substance abuse support, there's medical support, and its mission really is not just to shelter the homeless, but to really put them on a path to self-sustenance and to get into their own homes and to have jobs and to rebuild their lives. And we're just a part of that. We've already raised over $90,000 towards the goal of $100,000. And the stuff you're about to hear tonight was written by a whole series of screenwriters that sat down and took stories from people who had experienced homelessness in their lives. Now, the stories aren't necessarily about homelessness. They're here to let you see that the homeless people that you see all have a story. And our hope tonight is not just to raise awareness and to raise money, but to also restore the humanity of those that you see living on the streets. So each of these will be a unique experience, and having seen the run-throughs, they're pretty amazing as well. If you'd like to learn more about the Midnight Mission, you can go to www.midnightmission.org. That's in your bulletins. And certainly if you want to learn more about Homeward LA, www.homewardla.org. I'm going to ask you to turn off your cell phones, or at least put them on silent, and also to let you know that due to agreements we have with the Actors Union, we're going to ask that you individually not take any pictures or films of these performances. And lastly, there is one introduction I would like to make. The guy that kind of made Homeward LA happen, it was his vision, is here tonight, and I'd like to invite Jason Lesner to come forward at this time. Jason, please.
I'm going to keep this quick because honestly the stories are a lot more interesting than I am. So I just want to thank you all for doing this, for being here, certainly for the actors for taking the time out, director for directing this. It's at its heart, Homeward LA is a community engagement piece. It's really built on the idea that to address the homeless crisis, it's going to take the community coming together. So the idea behind this was, I believe people connect through stories and they see themselves in each other through stories. And that was really the idea behind it, and to spread those stories around the city so people see that people who are homeless are more than just their homelessness, and maybe care a little bit more, have a little more compassion. So I think that compassion is what's going to drive ultimately the solution to this problem. And that's really what it's all about. So I think it's amazing you're here, because I think that's really what it's about. It's just being present and right now being a witness to the stories. So thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to seeing what everyone does. Thanks.
So we hope that you will be inspired and moved by the stories that you hear tonight. Without any further ado, Homeward LA.
When I was
I got bused out of my neighborhood to Monroe High School. It's in San Fernando Valley, suburbs. And I loved Monroe. It was clean, the people was nice. They had a lot of books. I felt safe. But after I had been there just over a year, I got real sick, the flu or something. Put me in the hospital for about a good week. Because of that, Mama decided to pull me out of Monroe and put me in Huntington Park. Keep me closer to home in case I got sick again. Now, Huntington was dangerous. F-13s, 18th Street, King Street, Bloods, those were my schoolmates. But I minded my business, and I stayed away from trouble, and I prayed I'd get home safe. And every day I did. I was blessed. See, safety is important to me. And I'm not just talking about my safety. I like to make sure other people around me are safe too. So that's why when I was 33 years old, and I was at the La Brea Tar Pits, and I saw those people standing there, watching the scene, uniforms on, just making sure all the families were safe to enjoy themselves, I knew I wanted to be a security guard. Now I know what you're thinking, security guards, they don't do nothing but just stand there all day, that they fake cops. I watch Mall Cop, I know, it was funny, but that's not what I did. I'm not no joke. See, you gotta have patience to be a security guard. Communication skills. Work well with the public. I tell you, there's a lot of you people out there that don't listen. You know who you are. But I bet you didn't know. Security officers and first responders. See, they were some of the first people who died in the Twin Towers on 9/11. This one night, this lady called because they needed armed guards to help at Hurricane Katrina. I wanted to help, but I don't fly. No, seriously, I don't fly. And it's Louisiana. See, they be doing all kind of things down there in Louisiana. But then she told me they was gonna pay me $5,000 a week. Next thing I know, me, my Bible and my gun was on a plane to Louisiana. When we got there, couldn't believe it. I mean, you saw it on TV, but that didn't even come close to what it was like. Everywhere I looked was water, mud, the streets, stores. I saw trees that had fell and was laying on their sides, houses, everything was flooded. Ooh, and it smelled. It smelled like nothing I ever smelled before. It was hard to think about those people, you know, what they was going through. And at night I would sleep with my Bible over my heart. And I would pray. Most of the time I was assigned to the command center. But this one day, they needed me to escort an electrician while he repaired down lines. It was dangerous out there. And a lot of folks, they was desperate. They was looting and stealing stuff. And I stood watch outside that electrician's truck and he repaired down lines. And for 12 hours, he worked on those lines and I stood watch. I didn't go sit in the truck or lean up on nothing. He did his job and I did mine. And we got power back to the people. We was helping people that day. I was proud of the work I did in Louisiana. I was proud of the work I did as a security guard. I had an apartment. They had bought me a Lexus. Security was good to me. But then a little while after Katrina, I was having some embarrassing situations at work. was bleeding a whole lot. Every half hour I had to change. One time I was getting a ride home after my shift from my coworker, and I bled through my uniform onto the seat of their car. They said it was okay, but I mean, what they gonna say? Overall, I was feeling all right, so I told myself that it was nothing big. You know, maybe my period was off. So I kept working. I just had to work. But after a couple of months, I started feeling weak and tired. So I went to the doctor. Cancer in the uterus, he told me. They said they needed to remove it immediately. I asked if I wanted kids. I hadn't really thought about it before that. I mean, how do you make a decision like that in the moment? You know, they wanted me to decide right then. I couldn't talk. I was sad, prayed. And I decided I wanted to live. So I had the operation. 6 months later, they took my ovaries. 2. My body was weaker than it had ever been, and I just didn't have fight in me like I did before. I tried to keep working. I had to finally accept that I couldn't. I lost almost everything, and not just the material things that I had come to enjoy, the taking trips and pampering myself, but my job. I miss security. I miss helping people. I do. But I still have my faith. And I'm doing exactly what I used to do back in Huntington Park High. Staying out of trouble. Minding my own business. Just praying I make it home safe.
When I was a kid, I had this little window in my room. It was about 9 by 9 inches. And every night I would sneak out, right out the window, and I would go exploring. I'd go a little farther than the night before, then I would turn around and come right back home. When I was 11, I finally went farther than I had ever been. And I got so brave that I never went back. Maybe brave isn't the right word for it. It just felt safer out there. You know, my house was the worst one on the block. Peeled paint, broken windows, sliding door off the hinges, and inside the house are pimps, prostitutes, gangsters, hustlers, and my mother. Now, she ran an escort service with one of the pimps, and I remember being fascinated by these beautiful women. They counted on my mom for things. They counted on her to take care of them. And I remember thinking, how can I get some of that? Because I'd always wanted a home, a real home, with a mom that paid attention to me. The closest I got was when one of the pimps set me on his lap and said, "Hey, take a swig of this black velvet, it'll make a man out of you. Put hair on your chest." And so I did. I took a swig and ran to the mirror, looked for chest hair, and nothing ever grew. I checked every day. After I left home, I started sleeping in the park, on the sides of people's houses, and that's when I started stealing. Small things, really. Items from the grocery store, food from people's gardens, climb up the tree, get an apple. You do what you gotta do when you're hungry. Then as I got older, I started getting into more serious things. Selling crack on the street, running with gang members, things of that nature. In the back of my mind, I always knew that I could go home if I wanted to. I never planned on it, but it was always there in the back of my mind. It wasn't like I didn't love my mother. Even though I'd run away, she knew I was around, and if she needed me, she'd say the word and I would be right there. I'm loyal like that. I guess you could say I held out hope that she might one day, change. Before I knew it, 3 years had passed, so I'm 14. I had just done a year in the YA, that's the youth authority, for my second drug case. I was staying at my friend Capone's at the time. His mother was over at her girlfriend's a lot, so we were doing all kinds of stuff over at that place. They called it the Spot. Meet me at Capone's Spot. Oh, I'll see you down over at TT's Spot. Most people just called it the Spot. So, this one night, summer night, August, so it's still light out. I go over to my mother's. I don't remember why. Maybe to grab something, maybe to just say hi to my brothers. I do things like that. I'd stop by, in and out kind of thing. My mother's in the bathroom, and she calls out, "TT!" She knows that I'm pretending to not hear, so she goes, "Boy, get your ass in here!" And I'm like, "I gotta go, Mom. See you later." So I did. Rushed out the door, hopped on the bus, and went back to the Spot. Capone wakes me up the next morning, around 9:30. He says that Shona, Joe's girlfriend, is outside looking for me. What does she want? So I put my clothes on, I go outside, and she says, "Your mother wants to talk to you." Fuck. My mother wants to talk to me. I didn't do anything wrong. But as I said, my mother calls, so I go. Shona drives me back across town to the house. Didn't really talk to her. Was kind of an introvert. Then we come up onto the block, and I see it. Fire trucks, police cars, a whole crime scene. And I see it's my house. I get out of the car, and the fire chief comes over and he says, "Who are you?" So I tell him. And I'm standing across the street, and I can see everything is black. Windows are blown out. The house wasn't burned down, it was burnt out. And the fire chief says, "You know this was arson, right?" And he lifts my shirt, like I did something. But I guess he must not have found what he was looking for. So he lets me go. And he says, "I'm sorry, but your mother perished in the fire." It took a long time to register that. Then it hit real fast and hard. I didn't know what was a dream, what was real. Never cried like that before or since. And then the coroner brings my mother's body out, puts her in a hearse and just drives away. The last interaction I had with my mother was her calling for me, and I didn't go. I wish it had been something else. The hug. Or something, anything different than what it had been. Me being disobedient. I still can't get that out of my mind. And I stood there for I don't know how long. There's no home to go back to. I've been on the streets for 3 years. Always in the back of my mind. But now there was no home and no other. Now I'm alone for real.
When I was 10 years old, I was at my birth mom's funeral, and I noticed this man standing off to the side. He didn't speak to me, but I saw he had my mother's name tattooed on his arm. Jessie, in big, bold letters. For years, I'd wondered about this man with the tattoo, especially when I was taking a beating from my foster mom. She blamed me for everything bad in her life, including her husband abusing me, then disappearing. Well, one day, my caseworker showed up and told me she was taking me to meet my real dad in person. I didn't know what to think. I was nervous. I remember when I first saw my Poppy. That's what I called him, Poppy. He looked sharp. He was sporting a goatee, he was wearing patent leather shoes, and of course, he had my mother's name tattooed on his arm. We talked for hours, and he gave me so many hugs. But after that, my caseworker took me back to my foster mom and said I couldn't see him again. It didn't matter. From that moment I met my Poppy, I understood love. Soon, after my 18th birthday, my foster mom kicked me out. No hug, just goodbye. I prayed, wondering what to do next. And God spoke to me. He does that sometimes. He told me, go be with your Poppy. So I moved to Rochester, where he lived. Once I called my cousin Cookie and I told her, I'm getting ready to get to know my Poppy. And she said, oh, really? Well, there's something you should know about your Poppy. He's a kingpin. He's the #1 drug dealer in all of New York and Chicago. And I was like, what? He didn't seem like a kingpin to me. I didn't know what to think. The next day, I put on my favorite burgundy boots and my matching burgundy vest, and after a lot of praying, I set off to visit my Poppy. The second he walked through his door, I walked through his door, he gave me the biggest hug. He looked at me proudly with a smile, and he smiled from ear to ear, and he said, yep, that's my daughter. I was in heaven. The more time we spent together, the more I got to know him. He told me how he had to support his family when his dad left. He also told me about how he got involved in the drug world and, you know, all the murders. Yeah, he murdered people. I was sad when I heard about that, but at the same time, I was just so in love with him and so happy to get to know my real dad that I didn't care. I didn't care what he did, and I felt like the luckiest girl in town. Besides, getting Poppy out of the drug world became my mission. I just didn't know how. A few months later, God spoke to me again. Lynn, today is the day you sit down and you talk to your Poppy. I suddenly got butterflies. Talk to him, me? And then, this boldness washed over me. I called up my girlfriend and said, God spoke, today is the day. I didn't even have to explain. We drove straight to Poppy's house. He let us in and he said, come, sit down. My friend gets right to it. God spoke to your daughter, and he said that she was to talk to you about coming back to God's kingdom. Ooh, Jesus. Poppy suddenly had this expression like, what am I in for? And my friend says, Lynn, open up Ephesians 6. So I opened it up and tried to give Poppy the Bible. He just shrugged it away and started saying, His eyes got wide, like so wide. Suddenly I could feel this heavy, dark presence, and so I got up to leave. And then he screams at the top of his lungs, don't go, I'll tell you. Tell me what, I said. And he looks up and he says, I sold my soul to Satan. I didn't know what to do. I looked at my friend, she looked at me, and then I just started reading. Be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might, put on the whole armor of God, and that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. And when I came to the very last word, his whole body went limp, his eyes rolled back, and I was like, okay. Well, the next week, Poppy calls me all excited. Baby, you gotta come over. So I rush over there, and as I'm coming up the block, I hear Al Green's music blasting from Poppy's house. I was like, what the heck? When I get inside, a Bible is wide open, and the 700 Club is playing on his TV. I am beside myself. For the next month, he comes with me to church, to my gospel concerts, to Bible study. He's a changed man. I mean, after 30 years of drug trafficking, he just stopped, cold turkey. I was bursting with joy. And, it was Tuesday, and I felt this punch in my gut, and I was working my shift at the bus stop, and I doubled over and I gave out this groan. And I knew it was God telling me that something wasn't right. And my coworker said my grandmother was on the phone, and I knew what she was going to say before I even put the phone to my ear. And she said, I'm sorry, baby. Your Poppy was killed. He was shot and murdered, execution style. He tried to get out, but they wouldn't let him. My whole childhood, I wanted a father, a Poppy. I cried a long time, but one morning the crying stopped, and I woke up around 3 a.m. and God spoke to me again. Lying in bed, I knew I was suddenly filled with light and joy, and I knew. Although my Poppy was gone, his love would always be with me. He was always with me.
A big Christmas person. And when I say big, I take things to the next level. Seriously, I bleed red and green. I grew up with Christmas being this huge deal, and my whole family, we would go to my grandmother's house in Texas, and they really, really did Christmas up there. Oh, me and my brothers, we would go searching for all the presents. I mean, we would search in every corner. And to this day, at age 46, I have no idea where they hid those presents. But on Christmas Day, that room would be full and lit up. We would eat together as a family. It was beautiful. That's what Christmas is supposed to be. But when me, my son, and my daughter, and my mother didn't have a place to live, Christmas was the last thing on my mind. I remember this one year we were living in this old rundown travel lodge, and I didn't decorate, I didn't put up a tree, I didn't have money for gifts. Honestly, I wanted Christmas to come and be gone. I didn't even know what to do, so the only thing I could think of was on Christmas Day, we went to the nearby park and barbecued. Get out of the house and have a prepared meal and just forget about everything. We were the only ones in the park. And my son, he was too young to understand. But my daughter, she understood. Lord, she understood. I didn't talk to her much that day. I couldn't even look her in the face. It wasn't that she was just disappointed. She was confused and mad, and she couldn't believe that this was their Christmas. I could hardly believe this was their Christmas. Just years before, she had one of the best Christmases ever. My daughter, she wanted this, I don't know if you remember these, but it's a my-size Barbie. Oh my goodness, we went searching all over for this doll and could not find it. And the thing that was messing us up was that we wanted her to have a black Barbie, but I know Jasmine, she wouldn't have cared any other way, but we wanted her to have something that looked like her, So we went searching, and every dang store, there was just white Barbie after white Barbie. And I was like, what is going on here? Who is buying up all these black my-size Barbies? I'm sure having all these white people. So after the fifth store, her dad was like, can you just please call and ask? So I did. And the guy on the other line said, yes, we have one left. Oh, I begged. I really begged for him to hold it. So we drove as fast as we could from Oakland all the way to the Toys R Us in South San Francisco. And we got it. Oh, that Christmas morning, we decided it would be funny to hide the doll, right? So Jasmine is opening up all her gifts, and she's like, oh, this is nice. Oh, I like that one. And I knew what she was thinking. She was thinking, where is this doll I asked for? But on the last present, she opened it up, and she was like, is this it? This is the last gift? And we were like, well, what's wrong, honey? She was like, well, I just thought there was another gift on my list. Well, I told her we couldn't get it, I was like, sorry, honey, they didn't have it. She held it together about half a second and then burst out crying. Oh, I thought it was pretty funny, but her dad was like, what's that over in the corner? So she goes running over there, and she rips open the present, and she just freaks out. And she didn't play with any of the other toys that we got her that day. Oh my goodness. She takes off the dress off the doll, and she's the same size as the doll. So she puts the clothes on, and she has this pink and gold dress on with a gold crown. She danced around the house. She was smiling and laughing. Oh, she was so cute. But that day in the park, she wasn't smiling at all. She was looking at me like she hated me. And she says to me, all you have to do is make a call. I'm 11 years old, and she's telling me that. She's like, my dad, he'll do whatever you want. He'll give you money. Why are you putting us through this? Why are we living like this? Hadn't been long since I moved my children away from their father, from his abuse. You know, the physical abuse had stopped, but the mental abuse just kept going and going. You know, when someone has you mentally, just about anything can bring down your self-esteem. So detaching from that relationship was my sacrifice. You know, because what would staying tell my children about me? So I looked her in the eyes and I said to her, you're a kid. You're a kid living in the middle of some adult stuff. And I'm sorry that we're homeless. Sorry that you're going through all these things. But I'm going to be better. We will. I'm going to be better. The look on her face, it didn't change. But she didn't know what I knew. That I was going to keep that promise.
My grandma used to say, whenever I'm a little sad, I just put a little lipstick on, and then I feel better. So I tried it when I was about 8 years old, and she yelled at me. She said, "What are you doing? That's a girl thing." She had no idea what was coming. My mom had me when she was 13, and she became a drug addict, and she would trade me for drugs, and the dealers would have their way with me while she was getting her fix. I was given over eventually to my grandmother, and I kept getting into trouble. So she said she couldn't take care of me no more, and she put me into foster care. And my foster parents let me do whatever the hell I wanted. As long as they were collecting their checks, they were happy. I didn't belong anywhere. I bounced from home to home. I'd even get scolded in high school. The principal would say to me, "Boys do not wear makeup in school." Well, I wasn't doing it for attention. I don't know, I was just hiding behind a disguise while figuring out who I was. Does that make sense? Some days I'd wear a normal collar button down, and other days I just felt like walking down the street in some taffeta, some dark sunglasses, and a big hat, you know? And this was Rialto, okay? Wasn't no West Hollywood or New York City. Well, when I was 22, I was in rehab, trying to get sober for the first time, and my AA was doing a themed drag show. It was girls of the 80s. And I had never considered drag before, and I was like, yes. I'd always liked getting dressed up, but I had never considered it, and I'd never been on a stage in front of an audience to music before. But they gave us 4 months to prepare. So every day I was sewing, I was practicing the choreography, and I was doing my makeup, and I didn't even know what contouring was, okay? I bet you know. Right there, you don't know. Anyway, backstage, the night of the show, I was so nervous. I was being afraid of being judged. I was doubting my creative choices. But I didn't have any time, so they pushed us on stage for the opening number, and I was in my Madonna, like a virgin look, you know, the wedding ensemble with the lace, yes, the bangles, the veil, no?
Yes.
And I was petrified by the time it was over. I couldn't wait to get back on stage. So, the next portion was the talent portion, and I was chola hooker realness, you know? So basically, I was a bad bitch.
Yeah.
And I was wearing my jeans, my crop top, and big earrings like this. And it was to Tina Marie's Lover Girl. Does anybody know?
Yeah.
Okay. And I had these giant stripper boots on. You should have seen me. But I was afraid I was going to fall in them the entire time because I had weak ankles. But I killed it. I killed it almost every single move. The audience was eating it up. Okay, so the next one was the swimsuit question and answer period. So I glided across the stage. I had a little triangle top bikini. You should have seen it. And the judges asked me, "What does your higher power look like?" And I turned and I said, "Well, my higher power looks like Jesus, guns, and fried chicken, honey, fan pop." There's fans. That was my, how do you say that? Drop the mic moment. The crowd went wild, and I still get quoted to this day. And so I ran off stage to get into my evening gown attire, and it was Divine from the Pink Flamingos. Does anyone know Divine? You know, she was a drag queen, the original mother of Ricky Lake and Hairspray?
Yes, yes.
Okay, anyway. Well, I was backstage and I was changing my red dress, tiny little flare at the bottom, had my blue eyeshadow up to here, and I couldn't find, backstage, I couldn't find my pencil for my eyebrows. So I saw a black Sharpie, and I just went in, and then I put my wig cap on, my ball cap on, because you know, there was a, y'all don't know, it was a beehive, hairdo, and anyway, it ripped. And I only had a few minutes to get back on stage. I didn't know what to do. And I made a split decision. I shaved my head. And I super glued the wig directly onto my skin. But by the time I went on stage, let me tell you, I was beauty. I was grace. And I was divine.
Yeah.
The audience stood up, cheering, whistling, was utter mayhem, and in all that noise, it slowed down, and I felt the most present than I'd ever felt. Now I don't know how to put it. I don't know how to put it like this, but it felt like God was looking right back at me, and He was telling me I was exactly where I was supposed to be. That it was okay to be different. That it was okay to be me. It was pretty entertaining. It was a little rough around the edges, I will say. But now I have a small fan base, and I get paid to perform. And now my performances are polished, my costumes are flawless, I'm cut, I'm chiseled, I'm angled to perfection.
Yeah.
But I will never forget that first drag performance when I shaved my head to be divine, and I felt like myself for the first time in my life. Usually need a mirror for this.
When I was a kid, there was this theme park in Van Nuys, Busch Gardens. It was attached to the Anheuser-Busch Brewery. So it was basically like Budweiser had their own amusement park. My dad would take us to Busch Gardens because you could drink there. All throughout the entire park, you could drink there. So that's where we would go. That was our Disneyland, but instead of going to Disneyland, we would go to Busch Gardens. And there were these pavilions, and in each one you got 2 free beers. But my mom didn't drink, so she'd give her 2 beers to my dad. And my aunt didn't drink, so she'd give her 2 beers to my dad, and my dad would get his 2 beers. So, this one time, when I was 5 years old, we were going around the park. My sisters, my parents, my aunt, and everyone's laughing and having fun. I'm laughing. My dad's got his beers. He's got a big smile on his face. And I remember thinking, if I just stop and let them walk away, I can go around and do the park all by myself. I don't know why I thought that. I was just a kid. It seemed like a fun idea. I wouldn't have to follow them. I could check stuff out, get on whatever rides I wanted to get on. And so I just stopped walking. And they don't notice, so they go a little further, and they go a little further. And then once they get far enough away, I turn around and I'm gone. So right away, I get ready for the boat ride. And just a 5-year-old kid alone. And I think the family in front of me must have thought I was with the family behind me, and the family behind me must have thought I was with the family in front of me. Or, I don't know, maybe it was the 70s and people just didn't care. I don't know. But I was alone for the very first time. And I wasn't scared at all. And so we get on the boat, and the announcer, he's talking us through this tour of Africa. We start going through the jungle. We pass the elephants, with their little baby elephants, and as the boat goes closer and we get near them, they lift up their trunks and they throw water on everybody and they all get wet. And then the announcer starts telling us about how dangerous it is to be on the boat, right? And suddenly, these hippopotamuses just start charging the boat. And me as a little kid, these things are huge. They are monstrous. And I remember these tribal drums, they start playing, and there's cannibals on the beach, and they're throwing spears at us. And the hippopotamuses are trying to catch us, the alligators. I was 5 years old, alone, and I was not scared. So then the ride ends, and I keep walking around the park. I get on some more rides. I didn't know where my family was. I didn't know how I was going to find them. But I didn't care about any of that. I was a free spirit walking around this amazing world all by myself. And then I see him. And my sisters and my aunt are like in a circle around my folks, and my dad's sitting on a stool, and he's got his hands around his face, and my mom's standing there yelling at him just over the top of him. And I stood there just watching him. I didn't know what to do. And then my sisters, they saw me, and they're like, there he is. And I'll tell my dad, there's your son. And I walked over, he didn't have a choice now. My dad barely looked up. He just goes, go over by your mother. So I went where my mom was, and she's grabbing me. She's like, are you all right? What happened? And I don't know, I lied. I just said I got lost. She turns back to my dad. And she's like, this is your fault. And she starts just screaming at him about how terrible of a dad he is. And in Mexican culture, the father takes care of his family. And my dad's sitting there. And can feel the frustration start to build in him. And now I'm scared. Because now I know where this can go. You know, just the acts of violence I had seen in my family. I just wanted to look around, man. Just have an adventure. It's bush gardens. And I guess sometimes things are going well and you just think everything's cool. You can let your guard down, but there's always something to be scared of. And so we took a taxi home and, all of us get in except for my dad, because he didn't go home that night, the night after. Not the first time, the last time he did that. But when he finally left, when he left for good, well, that's when we went to Disneyland.
I think I've always made my mother a little uncomfortable. I like to feel. Doesn't matter if it's good or bad or happy or sad or anything like that. I like feeling in my life. But my mother, she likes routine. I can tell you what color socks she's wearing today if I really tried. I've always liked adventure. I'm a Capricorn. I was brought home on Christmas Day. Surprise, a present, right? I'm very different than my mother. I feel things really deeply, and emotion, it just sort of pours out of me. My mother's all about responsibility, She's a Cancer. She's basically the biggest martyr in the world, if we're being honest. She would say things to us like, I gave up my whole life for you, and this is what you do to return the favor. She was all about responsibility. She never showed any emotion. Everything had to be perfect and in order. So when I totaled the car, she was really, really upset. I was 18, I was driving around in Chinatown, and it wasn't my fault at all. I was just minding my own business, being responsible, and I got T-boned. I was making a left-hand turn. And I was really scared, and I went home, and I was thinking that, I don't know, maybe my mom might care a little or something. But she didn't say a word. Nothing. Not a peep. I mean, I know it had been hard for her to get that car for me. I know it was a sacrifice. But any emotion would have been good, actually. I just don't think she liked being around me much, So I ran away. I packed up my car, my boyfriend's car, David, and we went to Mexico, where his grandma lived. She lived in Guadalajara, and I was like, that sounds exciting, so let's do it. And we brought my dog Gemini. She was a Gemini for sure. And we get there, and I meet his grandma, Ama Choi. Choi is derived from the female version of Jesus, which is Jesus, if no one knows what that is here. I don't know, sorry. And she was amazing. I mean, she opened up her whole home to me. Everything smelled like wildflowers and pine sol and fresh masa, and there was always family, no matter what. Always family. And I mean, it wasn't just like a vacation. I mean, I was expected to do a lot. I had to cook, I had to clean, I had to learn how to knit. I'd never done that before, ever. So that was a new experience. But I mean, even with all the work, I couldn't get enough of it. It was a new life. It was different. There was life. Everything was alive. And my favorite part was this outdoor market that they had. It was beautiful. It was called the Tiaguanas, I think it was called. I don't know how to pronounce it. But it was beautiful. It was this gorgeous outdoor market, walking distance. It was filled with couples making out, and balloons, and children were screaming. It was my happy place when I was living there. And this one day, Ama wanted to make enchiladas, so she sent my boyfriend and I down to the market to get a chicken. And I'd always noticed this cage full of chickens, but I didn't realize what it was for. And we went to go pick a chicken, and they boiled it live in front of us, and sliced its neck and plucked its feathers. And I couldn't deal. I could not deal. But we had to bring it home, and I went into the kitchen, and Amma asked me to shred the body. And I mean, someone's got to shred it, and I was trying to be compliant, but the whole time, I was just thinking to myself, my God, like I could have been at prom right now. I was 18, I was in my senior year of high school, you know what I mean? I could have been at prom, but instead I'm shredding a dead chicken's body. But she got it on the plate, and it looked really good, but I just couldn't do it. I could not do it. And David told her, you know, she's sick, and she was like, okay, cool, so she can eat it, and it'll make her feel better. Eat it. And I tried, okay? But I stood up, and I hurled all over the table. And then next morning, she made me chicken soup to feel better, so. Wasn't good. I mean, look, Mexico is really like a dream bursting with color at all times. I mean, everybody felt something. I felt like I fit in there. There was feeling everywhere I looked. I mean, couples were screaming and fighting, and children were crying, and mothers scolded them, and Amma scolded me. I mean, it made sense. Like, I have a tendency to stay out a bit later than I should. and we would get into it a few times, like with my broken Spanish and her broken English. It was a nightmare from time to time. But she cared about me. She really did. David and I started fighting a lot, and once we got into this really heavy, big fight, and she grabbed me, and I thought I was in trouble, but she grabbed me, took me in her room, and she hugged me so tight until I stopped crying. She was really, really protective, and it was like she cared. It was like she actually liked me. So, yeah. I wish I could have stayed longer, but David, he wasn't the one. He was not the one for me. I wasn't in love. I don't even know what his sign was. I think maybe he was an Aquarius, possibly a Pisces. But I left. And Amma drove me to the airport, and she cried. She cried the whole way there. It was a long ride. It was like 2 hours. She was sobbing the whole time. And she kept Gemini, the dog. I was happy to give him to her. Cancer and a Gemini would match, right? And I remember being on the plane and thinking, my mom will be happy to see me. You know, she'll be really happy I'm back. I haven't called her, maybe she's worried. But then again, you know what? I hadn't heard about her looking for me either. So, I get there, and door's unlocked, and I open the door, and she sees me, and it had been months. Not a peep comes out of her mouth. Not a peep. Nothing. Nothing at all. And every ounce of color that I had found inside of me immediately drained out, and everything was black and white again. My mom, she's never good at expressing emotion, not with me at least. And back to square one.
As soon as I stepped into the principal's office and I saw 2 cops talking to my little brothers, I had a feeling that this was about. Sharon was, he was 6 years old, Pete was 5. You know, they were just, they're just little kids, right? I was the big brother. I was the protector, the 3rd grader. I knew that I was going to have to be strong here. The cops, you know, they asked all kinds of questions like, is anything going on at home? None of us said a word. Rule number 1 at our house is, you don't say nothing to nobody. truth was, yeah. She had a lot of things going on at home. You know, especially ever since Mom married Bob. I mean, Bob already beat us all the time. Constantly. I mean, he'd look for reasons to beat us, so if he found out that we snitched to the police, I mean, he might have killed us, you know? I mean, Mom, she was bombed all the time, so it was basically my brothers and I. We were just on our own. And I remember the cops, they said, we might feel like your bodies. Sharon and Pete, they looked at me. Sharon just missed like a month of school, right? He came back limping and he wasn't saying much those days. I mean, we all had bruises. But when Sharon, when he lifted up his shirt, both sides of his body was purple, red, yellow. Remember, one of the cops, he said, that's all we needed. You know? At the police station, they put us into this empty office, right? It felt like we were the ones in trouble. My brothers were scared. I was telling them that everything's going to be okay. But I was scared to death. I didn't know this lady, she comes in, right? She says, hey, I'm your social worker. They're trying to get a hold of her mom, but they weren't able to. She said that they were looking for a home for us, but they couldn't find one that we could all, there's three of us, that we could all three go in. So we had to go to separate foster homes. But she said just for a little while. I mean, to me as a kid, you know, a little while meant like 2 weeks. But, you know, like literally 2 weeks. I mean, I didn't want to be separate from my brothers. You know, I mean, who's going to protect them? But I figured that we could handle it a little while. So then my foster mom, she takes me to my social worker takes me to my foster mom's home. Mrs. Blackstone, she was from Louisiana. She had a fun accent. She cooked Cajun style food. She was a good mom. But she had this son, Craig, and he was older than me. And he didn't want me there, right? And whenever she wasn't around, he would hit me. And we shared a room, so that happened a lot. 2 weeks came and went. Nobody said a word. A little while turned into a month, and finally there was a court date. So Mr. Blackstone, the husband, he drove us to the courthouse, and we went into the room, kids' room. My brothers were there, Sharon and Pete, and they were good. You know, Sharon he was talking more, so that's cool. I said I was good too. We were excited, right? Because we figured we were going to go home with my mom. But she never showed up. So, grown-ups, they came back in, and we all went back to our separate places. I couldn't understand why we couldn't be together. No one from our family was taking us in. A couple of months passed, right? And I got to stay with my grandma for Christmas for a whole week. My brothers weren't there, but my uncle Jerry and my cousins Nikki and Sharice were there. And my mom, she came by on Christmas, and she gave me this present. And I asked her if I was going to be able to come home with her. She said she's working on it. She said it was just going to be for a little while. Christmas was like coming up for a big breath of air, you know? But the morning I got back to Mrs. Blackstone's, things got even worse with Craig. He woke me up by getting into bed with me. I didn't know what was happening, you know, I tried to stop him, you know, but he was bigger than me. stronger than me. He says, if you tell anyone, I'm gonna know, and I'm gonna kill you. Back then I thought being strong meant staying silent. I guess Bob trained me well. A year and a half passed. A year and a half. Summer, spring to winter, another fall, another Christmas. I don't know how I stayed strong, right? But I just did. I mean, I had school. I had my friends, you know. I'd see my brothers once a month, Corey, go to church with my grandma on the weekends. I really liked watching the $6 Million Man. Anyway, then one morning, I come down to the kitchen, right, and Mrs. Blackstone's, she's frying up some eggs, and she turns to me, and she says, "They found you a home, baby. You're gonna be with your brothers." It's like I was shot in the chest, you know? I dropped to my knees, and we cried, and then we ate a damn good breakfast. I remember walking up to my new foster moms for the first time. There was a front porch, and Mrs. Flowers, she was sitting outside waiting for me. I could tell that she was kind, you know, probably because she reminded me of my grandma. Then the door flew open, and out comes Sharon and Pete. They just pounced on me. We just held each other. We were just like, ah, you know? We loved Mrs. Flowers and her forest green house and her big porch. There were no Bobs. There were no Craigs there, just us. You're a family. No one can separate us. At least for a little while.
Dear Mom, I bet you're surprised to be getting this letter. I've been thinking about my life a lot lately, how I ended up where I ended up, and I thought I should write you. Not to try to explain or make excuses for the things I've done, but to share something I think it's important you know. You ever see a homeless person just walking around talking to himself? You think he's crazy, right? Well, me, if you saw me talking, it's not to myself. It's to God. You better believe me and him got a lot to talk about. We got a real history. You see, my father was a minister. He did anything he could for anyone he could. Didn't matter if you were rich or poor, one of his flock or not. If you needed help, he was there. He was the greatest man I ever know. I was proud to be his son. Now me, when I was 9 years old, we had a school project, and they asked everyone, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" Now some kids, they said, "Fireman," and some kids said, "Policeman," and the suck-ups, they said, "Teacher." But me, I said professional thief or hitman. I meant it too. No, I did. You see, I knew I could never live up to what my father was. They'll never compare. So I did everything I could to try to be as different, and so no one could ever compare us. And I set out what I meant to do that day. No, I was not a hitman, but I was a thief. Well, how'd that go, you ask? Well, I ended up on the streets, getting loaded every chance I could, so not great. But I moved home. I moved back in with my parents. I got married, had a son. I was working as a contractor, and everything was going good. And my parents were actually starting to trust me again. But then my dad had an accident. His legs got burned in an electrical blanket. It caught on fire. And we thought it was fine until he went to a coma. And then we had to decide. See, here is my father. This man who devoted his life to the Lord, to helping other people, who spent not one day thinking of himself, but thinking of other people, and he was going to die this horrible death, scared and in pain. And that day, machines. Well, I decided I didn't believe in God anymore. I also ended back on the streets for years. Something about me. I like to walk. I walk everywhere. I love to walk. Even when I'm loaded at my worst, I walk. And I would walk, and I would talk to God, and I would tell him how much I hated him. How much he didn't deserve praise. That there's no reason that a man like my father had to die in such horrible pain. That if he couldn't spare him, what good was he? But there was something going on that I didn't know. Something that was happening behind the scenes when my father was brought to the hospital. See, I was chased by the cops a lot. All the time. I'd see a cop, I would run. And when my father went to the hospital, they sort of got to know me. They thought, oh, he's not a bad guy. He's just a normal person, just has some problems, makes some mistakes. So when I ended back on the streets, instead of chasing me, they actually used to ask me if I was all right. So one time, they came to me and they said, hey, there's this homeless person, we just brought him in, and he's alone. Do you want to go visit him? I said, yeah, okay. And I did. And then they came to me again, and again, and again. And sometimes I would just sit there, hold their hand, or I'd read to them. The thing is, when you're on the streets, it can be really lonely. Trust me, I know. Mom, I know you're disappointed in me, but I want to tell you that in the city of Norwalk, if a homeless person gets sick, the cops come out and look for me. Not to arrest me, but to bring me to sit with them. One night they told me about this lady who was dying, and she was pretty old and it was just her time. They said she had no family as far as they knew, and asked if I'd come and sit with her. So I did. So I went in and I held her hand, and she opened her eyes once, she looked at me, and she passed. I was sitting in there in that quiet room, holding this lady's hand. I realized something. Dad dying actually allowed me to find myself, to find my calling. I know I'm not the man Dad was, not even close. But I'm proud of who I am. Maybe for the first time in my life. I'm sober now. I have been for a while. And I'm not going back. This time I have purpose. And I believe in God again. I know you spent a lot of years wondering what you did wrong. The answer is nothing. I had a childhood good as anybody's. You made sure we had food and clothing and love. You were a perfect mother. And I'm sorry, Mom. I'm sorry you ever had to think you weren't. I love you. And I miss you. Love, Dusty.
14, my mom moved us to Belize, where she come from. You know, Belize. It's like, Jamaica man, hey man, yeah, coconut water. That's how they talk. My mom got married to this dude she's been talking to for a year. See, because me growing up without my dad, I didn't know what it was like to have a man in the house. And you know, my testosterone level is rising. I'm smelling myself, you know, and I thought I was somebody, you know? And he's like, dude, you got it fucked up. I'm putting food on the table, I'm putting clothes on your back, you gotta obey my rules. So I told my mom, Mom, I love you, but I can't stay here with this guy. I moved into this apartment with my friend Antonio. We go in half, $20 a month, 100. I was like, cool. You know, I was working, you know, at the grocery store, delivery boy. I had money in my pocket. It was just work, party, sleep, repeat. My aunties and my uncles and cousins, they put together money to put my siblings in school. And they didn't even ask me. You know, they were like, oh, Abraham, we hear us in the streets. You know, he's doing this, he's doing that. We're not even gonna waste our energy. And I would have gone, you know, I would have cleaned up my act. But they just made that decision, you know? That was very disappointing. You gotta give people the benefit of the doubt sometimes. So it was Antonio, Asani, Kendall, and me. Antonio was kind of like the leader. Asani, he actually had parents with some money, so he was always trying to show that he was bad. Kendall was kind of an orphan, so he was like a really heavy weed smoker, you know. I guess I was the one that would think a little bit about more stuff, you know. So we also had this buddy called Stranger, you know. Not sure why they call him that. He was in his 30s, 40s, had a good job at the docks, loading containers on the ships. He would get us beer and let us use his bike. He used to get a lot of shit from people for that. Why are you hanging out with those teenage boys? You're a bad influence. His sister was like, do something right for a change. So he came to us and says, we're going to church. We're like, church? For real? But we actually looked up to him, so we were like, you know what, it's not gonna hurt too bad. We'll go, but we're gonna party right after, right? So we show up late, the preacher's already talking to the congregation. The second we walk in, they all turn and look at us. They were all dressed in their nice church clothing, and we came up in there with jeans and FUBU jerseys and bandanas. And the only seats available were in the front row, so we had to walk through everybody. They were looking at us like dogs. They didn't say nothing, but you could tell in their face. Afterwards, we noticed everybody socializing, you know. Like usually when you go to church, people introduce themselves. Welcome to our church, you know, please come back. But there was no welcome, there was no nothing, you know. It was like, thank you for coming, now there's the door. So next week, when Stranger told us to go to church, that church was gonna be a regular thing, my buddies were like, no way man, we ain't going back there. But I told Stranger, you know, I'll go. You see, the thing was, I knew the Bible, right? I've been going to church since I was a kid. And I believed in God. So when we go there, I pulled the preacher aside and I said, can I get 5 minutes to read something? Oh, we have a tight schedule. I'm like, dude, you have 5 minutes. And he's like, Puff, he's like, young man. But then one of the ladies got up. She was like one of those old, short, and like stocky church ladies you don't mess with. She was like, get the boy a chance. You could tell they wanted to, but he gave in. So they did their songs, they spoke a bit, and then he looked at me and he said, Abraham would like to share something with us. I walked up there, and I could tell everybody was like kind of whispering to each other, kind of groaning a bit, but I ignored it. You know, I opened up the Bible, and I read about when Jesus was being tempted by Satan for 40 days and 40 nights. And I gave this little speech telling them like, we all get tempted by the devil sometimes. It's up to us as a person to, you know, do right or wrong. But at the end of the day, we're all still human. And whether we do right or wrong, God still loves us. People tend to look down on certain people because they're homeless, or because they're a thug, or have something in their mind, their own perceptions of how people are already. But God loves us all the same. And before I even finished, the whole place started cheering. People were laughing and stomping their feet. My buddies were like, "We with him, that's our boy!" You know? Afterward, everybody was like, "That was great." The preacher came up, he shook my hand. He felt bad, you know? Don't judge a book by its cover. And then they just invited us to like barbecues, like fundraisers, the beach, hiking. We were part of that church community. It became like family. It felt nicer to belong somewhere. Plus there was a lot of cute girls too. But seriously, it felt nice to belong.
October 15th of 2015. After weeks of badgering Ricardo, he finally gave me a date. It was October 15th of 2015. That's when me and my kids were gonna move into our first real home. I was in sober living when a friend of mine turned me on to these apartments for families like mine. I've got 4 kids. I started calling the program director, Ricardo, at least once a week, and everybody was like, "Bobby Joe, he's busy, just wait." But I didn't even give him a chance to call me back. I was like, "Hello, what are we doing? When are we doing this?" And it worked. I finally got an answer. October 15th of 2015. I went with Ricardo to pick up the keys. Now, I'm an East LA kind of girl, and I was like, it's in Inglewood? I was totally out of my comfort zone. But it took 2 buses and a whole lot of rides to hell and back to get there, so I had to go with it. It was a pretty little apartment complex. All of the apartments were on this side, and then there was this little walkway, and our apartment was on the 2nd floor, number 5. Ricardo let me go in first. I mean, it was just wow. It was amazing. It was just amazing. Right when you walked in, it was the living room, and there was this big green couch with matching chairs, and I love that couch. I still have it, and all 5 of us fit on it. And then if you kept walking through the living room, to the right-hand side, you were in the kitchen, and it wasn't the biggest kitchen, but it had so much counter space. I had never had that much counter space. And, well, okay, so me and the kids, we had our own place once before in Boyle Heights. It was a studio, maybe 10 by 10, and that included the kitchen and the bathroom. And the refrigerator was in front of the one window, blocking the light. So I would move the refrigerator right next to the bed so we could have the window open, but that sucked because the place was infested with roaches. And before I would move the refrigerator, I'd say, "Okay, you guys ready?" And I'd push and bam! They were everywhere. I mean, it was disgusting, and we were all screaming, and then I would have to get out the bleach and the hot water, and I'd be cleaning. I would clean all night, but it didn't matter. Those motherfuckers would just come back with friends. But the place in Inglewood was clean, and there was light. And if you walked down the little hallway, there were 3 bedrooms. One for the girls, one for the boys, and one for me, with my own bathroom. I never thought I could have that. I never thought that I deserved it. I used to describe myself as this porcelain doll, because people were always like, "You're so pretty and so kind." But it was like this beautiful porcelain doll in a china cabinet. And what nobody sees is her back is cracked and she's broken. I was so broken. I was high then, meth. I used to stay up all night watching Intervention like I was gonna find the magic answer to what was wrong with me. In Boyle Heights, me and the 3 oldest, we slept smashed together in the bed. And I mean, my son was a football player. But they learned how to sleep skinny, arms raised. So it would be my oldest son, Daniel, and then the next oldest, Giovanni, same position, right? And then Danielle, and then me. And then we would put Judy Ann in a suitcase because she was a baby and she outgrew her playpen. So I just put a bunch of blankets and everything in an open suitcase. We made it work. But then I started seeing bed bugs. I saw one crawling on Danielle. I would stomp them and I would spray bleach, but it didn't matter. And the kids were getting bit. And the landlord didn't care. I withheld rent, but nothing changed. Finally, they took me to court, but I had so much evidence. I had pictures of the bugs and the conditions. I mean, they didn't make me pay back the rent, but we had to go. I thought it would be okay. I called my sister to come pick us up. She took the kids and then she says to me, "Where do you want me to drop you off?" I didn't have anywhere to go, but she'd had it with me. I didn't blame her. I'd had it with me too. I always told my kids that no matter what, we had each other. But I realized that that wasn't true if they didn't have me. I had so freely given up everything to my addiction. But I got myself into inpatient care, and I stayed this time, until I got clean. Until I transformed from someone who smokes meth every day to someone who goes to a job every day. I mean, I got my driver's license, I got a car, and I got us a place to heal together as a family. I put up pink curtains with white polka dots in the girls' room, and I let them pick their bedspreads. I didn't know how to set up a bedroom like that. I mean, my only reference was TV, like Leave It to Beaver, 2 beds and a one-night stand. But I could tell they liked it. The way they played, the way they smiled. I felt like, as a mother, I really did something good. Like, I got us something good. To this day, I still sleep better with my youngest smashed up against me. The older ones have gotten used to having their own space. I don't know if I ever will. It doesn't matter. What matters is they have room to grow. They are home. We are home.
Broken pavement, busted seams, fading lamplight shine on me. I'm just waiting on a dream. If I could only sleep. Random thoughts and random nights, random lows and random heights. You have a place in these streets, and here I stand. Where are you right now? In the sky or in the ground? Are you looking up or looking down? Are you lost or are you found? I'll be here when you come around. I thumb through washed out photographs to see my smile and see me laugh. You have a place in my dreams, and here I stand. Where are you right now? In the sky or in the ground? Are you looking up or looking down? Are you lost or are you found? I have my place in this world, like a diamond or a pearl. You may think I'm what you see, but here I stand. Where are you right now? In the sky or in the ground? Are you looking up or looking down? Are you lost or are you found? I'll be here. Where are you right now? In the sky or in the ground? Are you looking up or looking down? Are you lost or are you found? I'll be here when you come around.
Weren't they great? So, a couple of other people that we need to thank, and I want to bring them up here so that you can express that to them, and that is Doug Ebach and Tanya Pete. Doug served as director, and Tanya did our casting and our PR and all kinds of other stuff. So let's give them a very And just so you guys know, we do need to also thank the, I have to read this off the paper here, the Performers Union, Actors Equity Association, the American Guild of Musical Artists, the American Guild of Variety Artists, SAG-AFTRA, through Theater Authority Incorporated for their cooperation in permitting artists and actors and actresses to appear in this program. But you don't need to applaud for them right now because they're not here, okay? But thank you for coming. We hope that you were really moved by what was presented. If you are really moved, you can post on your social media saying you came to our performance and it was great. Tomorrow is the last day to get Homeward LA performances in, and you can direct them to the Homeward LA website to find the showings that are going on tomorrow. Also, if you're moved to donate more to the Midnight Mission, you can text Homeward LA, so that's all one word, lowercase, Homeward LA, to 71777 to donate. So you can go and do that. And, you know, we believe that homelessness is a solvable issue. And it always starts in a community that has a vision of a city where everybody has a place to live and where everybody is cared for. You're going to be a part of this just by being here tonight. So I thank you for coming. I thank you, the actors and actresses. I hope you have a good evening, and we're going to turn on the house lights in just a moment. So thank you for coming.
Bravo.